Hey guys, it's Ryan, and this week we are going to be running through the Ariadna reinforcement group Equipe Argent, which is our Metrovanian themed reinforcement. This is a pretty classic unit breakdown where I'll talk about these stat blocks, how I use them, how I see them being used, and if it's worthwhile using them. This is the second of my reinforcement series where 2 weeks ago I covered Gold Capital, and in 2 weeks I'll be covering Nomads. So check the cards for Pano, and if you're interested in Nomads, remember to like and subscribe to see that soon. So with that, let's begin. Our first reinforcement unit, and it's the 112, which is one of many Ariadnian cheap doctors, and it's really nice to see this one with availability 2 and max 1 in a fire team. We've all seen it before if we've played some flavour of Ariadna. They're Whip 13 or BS 11 for that medkit doctoring action. We have a light shotgun for templates and general defence, but you're not really going to use it. You're going to be taking this one for the cheap orders it provides to power the bigger models or filling in a fire team, and with the 112 it's very easy to get a full core in Ariadna reinforcements if you want to or need to. Beast Hunters are also an absolute bargain of a reinforcement unit as well, with 8 points for an irregular, heavy flamethrower using, mine carrying, tack bow using melee threat. Why is he a melee threat? Well, he rocks a damage 15 DACCW with Natural Born Warrior. I should not have to explain why that is nice, but what this does mean is that he bullies Martial Artists, which costs 3 times as much. This is a very nice scalpel to run up and act like a Camel's dart to deal with a problematic piece. Additionally, to the very nice base profile, we get our Ariadna variant of the Beast Hunter, with a Panzerfaust instead of attack bow and AP mines with +1 damage. This means he becomes a very cheap ARO speed bump or tertiary shooter with min -3 in BS 11. He's not likely to hit, but if you do, that's going to be a very nice outcome. We also get a heavy pistol +1 burst and a DACCW, which works out as a nice choice of a damage 15 DACCW or a burst 2 damage 16 shock CCW. This means that you can really just push forward and go hunting as the name implies, thanks to that stealth and super jump. Nowhere is safe from him. We're going to see this profile often, at least in my opinion, because for 9 or 11 points we get a very well regarded disposable unit we can use to do a lot of damage for very cheap to things in the midfield, or be a very not nice speed bump if need be. Bruant is a classic Ariadna character alongside Wallace, the Unknown Ranger, McMurra and Usha, and he is absolutely worth his appearance 3 in reinforcements. I'm not sure how similar he is to his non-reinforcement profile, but here he rocks a solid Ariadna character profile with BS 12, Whip 13 specialist with Arm 2, X-Visor which helps for the guns he has, min -3, NCO, specialist operative, stealth and terrain total. This is a really nice profile as a shooting point man or efficient specialist. Brand's NCO and wildcarding, counting as Briscards, really push this point home. He has 2 profiles, each with decharges, which is good for Ariadna. He rocks an AP Spitfire with a chain colt for 29 points, which is really aggressively costed, and I think your main gunfighter you're going to be reaching for. The X-Visor, while not earth-shattering, complements the high burst and removes the -3 from the 0 to 8 and the 24 to 32 inch range bands. Ranges that I think will be pretty common, and sometimes you just need that burst. Bruant with this profile is competing with the glowed up Moblots, but both bring similar skills, and that makes it a really good player choice here. One I think we'll see go to Bruant pretty often thanks to his slightly lower cost. The T2 profile I think however might also be worth it as a solo piece or for adding more efficiency to your fire teams with that nice and rare NCO skill. The combo of +6 within 8 inches, then a deadly +3 out to 16 and 0 out to 32s is good enough to keep other units' heads firmly down out the road as a secondary shooter in a fire team or a solo piece on a mission. Really, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of Bruant, and I think it'll be very likely to be the AP Spitfire just because its price and being a solid wildcard as well as a bit of a do-it-all profile. Lugaroos are the first of our 2 fire team starters alongside Briscards, and from talking with other Ariadnan players about reinforcement teams, this seems like it'll be the popular option. I do believe it's pretty close though, so why is it so popular? Well, it's a couple of things. They're slightly cheaper with better weapons, i.e. a lot of viral and X-Visors. They're slightly worse shooting platforms to Briscards just due to the prevalence of mimeticism, but it's not a bad one to start with. Lugaroo are BS 12, X-Visors, Phase 11, Whip 13 and Arm 2. Not a specialist here, so it's a slight waste. The profile is similar to Bruant's T2 rifle one. This is very much a secondary shooter vibe to the main shooters that would defer to Moblots, Bruant and Wolfgang. You're taking one of these profiles to enable a fire team basically. So what are the profiles? We have 3 Viro options, 2 rifles, 1 with a grenade launcher and 1 Viro marksman rifle. The rifle with X-Visor is solid with burst 4 and a Harris. We can agree that a fancy rifle and X-Visor do okay. Mormer's Bruant and these guys are pretty solid examples of that. No one wants to deal with burst 4 with a potential of 2 ones on each fail out to 32 inches. Anyway, the grenade launcher is interesting but not mind-blowing. You can spec fire out to 32 on 9s rather than 24 in the best case scenario of a 5-man pure core. Something that is doable thanks to Apaches. We could also use this profile, not necessarily in that 5-man, to catch a fire team on reactive or actively hunt something that is a bit bunched up. All interesting, but not outstanding. The Viro marksman rifle is nicer with 0s out to 40 and probably the profile that is going to see play if you have SWC to spare, which is entirely possible in Ariadna. Fun thing to note is I believe this is the second profile to receive such a weapon after the L6, and I think we'll see play with it. Final 2 profiles for the Lugaru is that the sniper, who I really don't think is worth it. It is not the Viro one they have elsewhere, and basically if you want a sniper in reinforcements, you're going to want the Briscard, who is just better for that. Final profile though, I think has some legs, is the boring shotgun adhesive launcher profile. It's the cheapest and gives you templates or AP and 0s out to 24, or a glue shot out to 32 inches which could land a tag or low fizz model in trouble before an Apache moves in to finish the job. So with profiles in mind, I think we will still see the Lugarus. Pure coring with Apaches, while not necessary, encourages the combo of the 2 of them. As a fireteam starter or maybe a lone shotgun, I think we'll probably see them, but maybe not shooting unless it's that Viro marksman rifle. Paracommandos are an odd one. 1, they lack parachutist, and 2, gain NCO, which as I mentioned earlier is really nice to have. They are BS12, min -3, which makes them as good as a shooter as anyone else we've discussed this far. So you're probably thinking, great, I'll take him and we're good to go. A small issue is that they're not linkable, which isn't a massive problem, but in the tight points of reinforcement, it means they might get overlooked. This is largely as the profiles are pretty similar to ones already out there. His rifle chain call, while cheap, is a bit of a trap since the Apaches does this close range stuff much better and for literally a point cheaper. The AP Spitfire again is kind of overshadowed by Bruant, who can link and for only a few points less. The Paramedic again is also overshadowed by the 112 and the Briscard Paramedic, who can link and go down exactly where he is needed. The pseudo-heavy shotgun profile is the only one I really consider in a fireteam heavy reinforcement section since it offers a damage 15 AP or template weapon. It flashes on 14s with that +1 damage and it has decharges for missions. The forward observer can also be cheeky on 14s and you could target an enemy before Bruant or a Moblop moves in for the kill. So with a fireteam, he's a little overshadowed. However, all things considered, you're not obligated to make a fireteam, and in our reinforcements you don't necessarily need to. A Mirage might stop you if you catch my drift. If you're in that position, then you can kind of look at the profile slightly differently. The rifle chain call is still a trap, but that SMG Paramedic, that's a more durable piece than a 112 and far cheaper than a Moblop, and a little cheaper than a Briscard as well. So you can put it down, move up or back to pick up that unit that really needs it. The AP Spitfire becomes a decent gunner as, like I said, BS12, min -3. There are only 2 shooters who beat that in our reinforcement sections. NCO makes this an incredibly efficient and agile as he doesn't need to worry about carrying around a couple of friends. Finally, that boarding shotgun. I mean, it stays just as good to steal an objective or flash your opponent. Overall, the Paracommando is a solid unit I think you will have some success with, but it can be overshadowed by other options. Definitely consider this one. The War Driver is a classic merc in that they are always cutting about, but they're never actually taking much besides highly classified. But it's a thing, and as hacker goes, they're pretty nice with Whip 13, BTS3, and the rare innate 6th Sense. They have Arm 1, BS11 with a shotgun, which is passable for a non-combat unit. However, without repeaters or other support, they're nothing fancy except a different type of specialist. Take them if you have a plan for them, but we really don't do hacking. Although zero pain is always nice. Briscards are our second fireteam starter, and I think a slightly better one. Stat-wise, they are CC16, BS12, Fizz11, Whip 13, Arm 2, and MSV1 with Courage and Terrain total. These are very similar to Lugarus, but we get a better visor and lose access to Viral. Honestly, a worthwhile trade in my opinion. Why? Well, to be honest, it's visors which Caledonia, my go-to Ariadna faction, lacks. plus the specialist option so we can focus our wildcards and shooters on other jobs beyond wasting time pressing buttons. And besides, they're all whip 13 anyway. So profile wise, they'll have MSV1 and assault pistols except for the sniper, which means you're largely good out to 8 inches. Then it depends on your choice of weapon between a marksman rifle, a heavy rocket launcher, or an AP sniper rifle when your next +3 comes in. And of these profiles, I'm not sure which one I recommend the most. The heavy rocket launcher is the cheapest and solid, but steals a lot of your SWC. Heavy rocket launchers are generally still pretty good. The base marksman rifle is okay for a fireteam starter, but the Lugaroo might be better since it's a bit cheaper. The Forward Observer one, however, is a good specialist in a fireteam to start it off. I particularly see the HMG Moblop, Doctor 112 and Forward Observer marksman rifle working quite well. The AP sniper rifle is nicely priced at 25 points, with AP plus shock ammo for only 0.5 SWC. So it could be something to take alongside a Spitfire to pick at something that's just a little too far away. Although a HMG does a similar job for about well enough. I really like the sniper profile, but I struggle to see its uses. This might be one for personal use, I think. The final profile is the Paramedic Marksman Rifle, which I think will form most fire teams, as I reckon it's a basic do-it-all profile. You're a paramedic, which frees the slot in the fire team for specialists, and your MSV1, BS12, and your +3 out to 24 inches, which is solid secondary shooter territory in a Harris. Basic damage, but a basic cost to pay for enabling others to just be a bit better. In general, with Briscards, if you want a slightly more expensive but quality shooter for your fire team, then this is the unit for you. I recommend the Specialist or the Heavy Rocket Launcher to deal with those with Mimeticism to cover your bases. I was surprised to see Equipe Mirage 5 in reinforcement, but since Murph has like 5 units total, I really shouldn't be. Equipe Mirage 5 is our most expensive unit we can take in reinforcements, and we do get some good quality for that cost. It's the centerpiece of your section, like the Squallow for Pano and the Lizard for Nomads, so do the two make up for it? Well, here's the thing. Yes, but also a little no. We'll start with Duroc since I like warbands more. It's Duroc, what can I say? He's not in their drop zone, which is arguably a downgrade thanks to the lack of smoke, but he's still a chain rifle +1 burst, grenades on 16s, arm 3, 6-4 movement with martial arts 2 and CC23 with that AP CCW. Like always, as Duroc approaches impetuously, death does too. Like other fast melee units, he can come in where he's needed and in a couple of orders punish anything slightly overextended. The TI and Vulnerability Viral also help a lot with melee. Even if he loses, he probably won't mind. Duroc is a dog with combat jump that was good then and is unsurprisingly still good now. It's Margot, however, I think, who lets the side down a little. Now she's did get the Moblop glow up, so she's still BS 14, Phys 12, Whip 13, Arm 3 with BS and Immunity Shock, but now she's also got Min -3 and Tactical Awareness, which is very nice. Still 1 wound, but she's going to struggle to lose a face-to-face roll with that Min -3 and BS 14. Her loadout is okay with that AP rifle, light shotgun and grenade launcher. This is overall fine, as I've talked about it elsewhere. The light shotgun might be a smidge suicidal, but at the same time, pick your targets. You'll be on 20s before cover within 8 inches. Alternatively, you've got that AP plus shock rifle and a shock template weapon that can be useful to clear out light infantry at a distance. This is all good, but there just really isn't anything fancy here. BS-14 in Ariadna is novel, but she's not a specialist or a particularly good gunner. I think a specialist would be a smart, and even then a viral rifle or something over a plain AP rifle would be better for our most expensive reinforcement unit. Hell, give her marksmanship or a smoke grenade launcher, and that would be neat as our only source of smoke and reinforcements. Margot feels almost not worth it to me. Like, she's a really effective shooter, but I feel like we're just on that edge of greatness. Anyway, Equipe Mirage 5 does make it into a lot of people's list, and they seem to have a plan for it. Even if it's half our points being spent, we can still squeeze in 3 other orders easily enough, with each of the EM5 duo basically having 2 orders themselves. That all helps immensely. I think EM5 will probably be worth it, my gripes aside. And please let me know in the comments if you've had any success with them. Moblots were and generally are considered the worst Ariadnian heavy infantry, but the reinforcement profiles are actually pretty good. First off, the glow up of the stats and skills. The stat line is pretty much the same with BS 13, Phys 12, Whip 13, Arm 3 and BTS 3, which is very unique for Ariadna. They have 1 wound with no extra survivability, however, but to go alongside the innate BS attack and immunity shock, they get min-3 and tactical awareness, which makes them much better shooters and much more efficient shooters. Key in the tight points of reinforcements. Moblots are also wildcards, so they are also competing with Bruant, who is almost equally as efficient and as good a shooter. So profiles. We get 4 and they're all bangers, to be fair. Start from the bottom up, and that's the boarding shotgun paramedic, which is nice, but outcompeted between the Briscard paramedic and the 112. But they do have a niche in being armor 3 and min-3 with the tactical awareness, meaning they can move faster towards the pieces that need it or support a fire team. Fortunately, with availability to do, you're not missing out on taking this profile or the next ones, since you can have a cheap, useful fire team starter, the moblot for close encounters, and then a moblot for shooting at range. This is true of all moblot profiles, I just wanted to point it out now. Next up is the engineer, and people generally consider this the best, and I mean, I kinda get it. We lack the gizmo kit, I don't know, maybe the Mars Spiders stole them or something. We do get that AP rifle and light shotgun, which is fine, EM mines, which are really nice, and decharges, which are great for objectives. This is pretty nice for 33 points, so a similar point range to Margot, but can actually do objectives, repair our 3 or so REMS on our 1 tag, or do classifieds. This acts as a secondary shooter too, since it can defend itself in a lot of ways. The EM mines and unique specialist is very much the jazz I was talking about earlier with Margot. As such, I think we'll see this one a fair bit. Final 2 profiles and their shooters are best ones by a good wee bit, as these guys are actually pretty threatening. A HMG and an AP Spitfire +1 damage are very nice shooters in reinforcement, thanks to that min-3 and BS13. Ariadna isn't a shooting faction, but this is nice regardless of faction. With the aforementioned tactical awareness, we get that free order just to get that sweet spot to shoot from, and when further combined with either Brandt's NCO or a second moblot, it really starts going somewhere. Additionally, the burst and range pose a real threat that up until now only the Briscard has been able to project. I think ultimately we'll see moblots a lot, but they're expensive and very brittle, but very much worth it, so just be careful. Take them solo in a fire team, both is fantastic. Reinforcement chasseurs, and I have some mixed opinions on them. They lose a lot going into reinforcements, but they keep some good stuff. They're BS11, CC14, Fizz 13 oddly, and Whip 13. They keep their min-3, which is always good, as well as stealth, terrain total, and 6th sense. Without camo it becomes pretty flimsy, but it is dirt cheap for 15 points. Profiles, first one is a rifle, adhesive launcher +2 burst, and decharges with a heavy pistol. It's such an odd and interesting profile. Not sure if it's good though. The rifle is fine, we can't have everything be viral or T2. The decharges help out with missions, so that's always good. The adhesive launcher +2 burst is the odd one, as it's effectively a rifle with para ammo, which I have consistently praised as good, but with a profile like this that has a rifle, I think it's a little overshone. It would be good as a reactive gun, but then you're losing the +2 burst you're paying for. I think its real niche is actively gluing stuff to prevent reinforcements, which is interesting. The specialist profile I think is a bit better by virtue of being a specialist. He lacks the decharges but gains much better kit with a flash pulse, which means he can ARO a little thanks to that min-3 and Whip 13. The flamethrower and the shock mines. That alongside the heavy pistol, I think we can kind of see what Corvus Belli wanted the chasseur to be. First off is cheap. Second off is a defensive piece. Remember in my warband video, it's in the cards if you don't. Taigas have a similar thing with 6th sense and a complement of close range weapons. I think they're here for the heavy pistol and flamethrower, that we can just deny a good portion of the map as no one likes continuous damage or damage 14 shot. This counters skirmishers as much as it does warbands thanks to shock mines, adhesive launchers and good fizz, which I think makes dealing with him maybe just a little more costly than 1 or 2 orders. I do think the Apache or another dog warrior could do this as well, but it's a nice cheap option to create a defensive bubble. All in all, I would consider the chasseurs as a cheap defensive unit at close range, but I don't think I'm reaching to put him in my list often unless I need the regular order. Apaches are our new warband unit for Murph and Equipe Argent, and they are fantastic. It's one of the new cheaper units with Natural Born Warrior, CC damage bonus, and burst 2. So yeah, that's why it's really good. 6-2 move, CC 22, Fizz 13, Whip 12, Arm 1, and 1 wound. cheapened by Frenzy, no wound in cap, shock immunity, and super jump to sweeten the deal. They are availability 2 as well with wild cards, which means that these are super solid units and going to show up in your fire teams and solo as well. All 3 profiles will have a heavy pistol, which effectively a damage 15 shock CCW, which is nice to clear out most things which aren't heavy infantry or tags, and if that is in your road, we instead then get the burst 2 AP CCW to bring them down. So they are great in melee. What about the profiles? Well, there are 3 with no smoke, which sucks, and they're kind of oddly priced. Not badly priced, just odd in that they're all about the same cost, but they're 16 to 17 points, so that doesn't really matter. The rifle chain call is probably the weakest, as with BS11 you're not going to hit much except with maybe suppressive, even in fire teams. The chain rifle grenades, which is BS attack plus 1 burst, is probably my favourite as it offers 2 very large templates, or 2 grenades on 16s within 8 inches, or some pretty decent heavy pistol action. Not really anything fun for your opponent to deal with, and it's cheap at 16 points, which is our 3rd cheapest regular troop available. The light shotgun plus 1 burst is nice and offers a reasonable fork, but I think the chain rifle does it just a little bit better thanks to grenades and larger templates. I don't think you can really go wrong with the Apaches, and I think we'll be seeing a lot of them in reinforcements and Metrovania. Wolfgang is a great addition to reinforcement as he gets over his and Wolver's big issue, the lack of smoke, since he starts in the midfield just a few scant orders from being really effective. In my Cosmoflot guide, again up in the cards, my only real gripe was his linkability, and here he's a wild card with great purity. In fact, if you've got the points to spare, then he's kind of worth it. Why? Well, he's got some of the best stats in reinforcements with CC 22, BS 12, Phase 14, Whip 13, Arm 3, BTS 3, and 2 full wounds. The only one outside of Duroc who can claim that. He has some mean melee skills befitting a Wolver with Berserk plus 3, Martial Arts 3, Climbing plus, Dodge plus 2 inches with a plus 3, with Frenzy and Immunity Shock. He's only got the 1 profile and it's the same as before, that being a multi-rifle plus 1 burst with a chain call heavy pistol. In melee, that's a nice shock CCW to go alongside his damage 16 DA CCW and his para CCW minus 6. That is just absolutely packed with good stuff. Wolfgang is here to be a melee powerhouse, or even just shoot stuff down with burst 4 and good ranges within 16 inches. It's closer than an AP Spitfire, sure, but that could be a burst 3 DA rifle, almost as good as a viral rifle. Once he's dodged or shot his way into where he needs to go, that's where the fun begins, as with his Climbing Plus he can berserk up walls on 28s and uses that fantastic array of melee weapons. You're really bound to put the situation in your favour. He does still also have that chain call, so the forking is strong between a small template, a full burst of AP or shock, or a single DA round. I really recommend Wolfgang for reinforcements. He won't let you steal a box, but he will butcher absolutely anything that could stand in your way. I think we'll see him a lot of the time when you're not using EM5 or Moblots. Expensive, sure, but absolutely worth it. I like the Ariadna reinforcements, I really do, but I feel like there is something missing and I'm just not sure why. The French were the obvious group for reinforcement, but it's a faction that is long out of production and just lacks a lot of interesting units. It has like 10 unique units maybe, and only 2 of them aren't here, the Zouaves and the Metros, and I kind of want to see a Sapper as I think that would actually be pretty unique for reinforcements. It feels like with reinforcements we're missing very Ariadnian solutions to problems. No smoke seems to be a reinforcement thing, no camo which is also a reinforcement thing, and that's 2 of Ariadna's big 3 solutions gone right there. And the third one, well, we only get 3 warbands. All 3 are very good, but I feel like we could have used a second Dog Warrior or Wolver to really hammer home that this is Ariadna with tech and the ability to go places. The general lack of T2 and Viral also hurts theming, especially when we have only 2 units with BS 13 or over, which means we're much less likely to hit in general and much less likely to do damage. Again, I must stress I do like them a lot and I think each one is a positive addition, but it's just a little what ifs at the back of my mind. Anyway, I'm glad Corvus Belli is bringing back some iconic units and designs for Ariadna to get used. Each unit has a purpose and succeeds at being Ariadnian, so I'm glad to see it. I definitely want to keep playing with reinforcements with these guys to see what my Caledonia and Cosmoflot armies can do with some Metrovanian support. So that was my video on the Ariadna reinforcement group. If you liked what you watched, remember to like and subscribe for more. There's even little fireworks now when you do so. They're neat as hell. As always, thank you so much for watching.